Hey guys, Eric here. I'm at New York Comic Con with two of the stars of The Americans. Annette, Noah, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't think it works.
Hello?
You guys just did your first like convention panel for this show. What was that experience like for you?
It was great, actually. You know, I've heard all sorts of stories about different Comic-Con audiences and some weird questions that you get, but our audience was great, super sophisticated, intelligent, engaged with the show.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It seems like with this show, you know, because when it started out, there's a lot of question about audience loyalty, and when you've got characters that are going to be perceived by certain audiences the enemy, but it seems like everyone is really into all your characters. You know, like they want everyone to win, even though they can't work out. Do you find that?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit apprehensive about that, a little bit, because Stan, you know, people have issues with Stan, his duplicity or his cheating or his, you know, whatnot. But it feels like people really do understand the center of the humanity of all the characters, and it's wonderful. You know, that credit to the writing and to the storytelling.
I feel like to call the relationship between your characters complex is to really undersell it. You know, there's been so much back and forth, and what secrets they're keeping and what secrets they're aware of. Does it sometimes you kind of get, you know, have to kind of check yourself and remember, like, wait, what does he know the truth of and what does he not? Do you have to remind yourself of all the spy secrets going along?
I did, especially when Oleg came in. I had to really keep things in check, separate the worlds and what he was up to, and, you know, how you know, Nina had to be kept safe from her own, you know, people.
And for you, Noah, you know, is there ever times where you would even talk to your producers maybe about, should he maybe suspect her more, or is, you know, he's obviously in love and that's kind of going to put on those blinders for him? Right.
That's a very interesting question, because I did have that very question, you know, because Stan is a sharp agent and he doesn't miss much. So how obscured is his you know, ability by his heart? And I always sort of was pushing to have Stan know more than they wanted him to know. I think just from a personal point of view, it's hard to be a dupe. Right. It's hard to be played, which is why also it helped me sort of not to. I would always sort of skim over the Nina Oleg scenes in the script.
It really helped you when I took the polygraph, didn't it?
You know, because it's just really, I mean, it's weird how we identify with the character, but I would read those scenes and my blood would boil, and I'd be so mad at Nina, you know, that I couldn't play the scene without knowing that I didn't know that.
Right.
So I just ended up sort of skipping over it. It was really hard. It was really a terrible season for me. I mean, for Stan. So yeah, it's an interesting balance of how much you don't want to dull Stan's intelligence, but you don't want to you know, bleed into the character knowing things you shouldn't know to maintain the relationship, the dynamic that you want to have. So yeah.
You know what was interesting too, when that scene when I sit down with Oleg and Arkady, and I tell them, you know, that his wife just left him, and I know it's valuable information, but it was so heartbreaking and like cruel, and it was just surprising, I guess, to see that, oh, you're delivering something, and now, you know, the tables are turning now.
Right.
You're taking this guy and destroying him, and I don't know. I don't think she was, like, okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wondered about that, about her character, because she clearly has some reasons to, in some ways, just flat out hate him because her friend was killed. But yeah, as it goes further and further, putting him in danger, you know, how much do you think she starts to have that doubt and think, oh, there's things about this guy that I would want to protect, or is she just?
Of course, like she got to know his humanity, and you know, apart from us being on different sides, you don't really know the other side until you know the other side. So yeah, and even in that scene, she says, you know, so it's fine, so we can continue what we're doing, we're safe, and they're like, no, this is when you turn him.
Right.
Anyway, I think that scene says a lot.
So we go into this new season. I know you can't say much. Only thing I can get your producers to say, by the way, is that it would be a shame if we were just bringing Nina back for one episode. So we'll see what that means.
It would be a shame.
It would be a shame.
Thank you.
But for her, you know, can you say at this point, does she feel hopeless, you think? Does it just seem like there's no way out?
Oh, it's like the most hopeless time. She knows she's guilty, and she's being shipped back.
Mm-hmm.
Oleg did everything he could. He gave her some money, and Stan did everything he could too. And she sort of understands, but it's brutal. It's a brutal truth in a brutal world.
How close do you think he came to going through with it?
I do think that Stan is as close to incapable as possible to betraying his country. I think he couldn't reconcile his heart and his integrity, and I don't think so maybe there was a moment where he thought, I may have to choose my heart, but I think in the end it was never really conceivable that he would damage the security of the United States for his selfish reasons. I mean, his whole life has been one of pretty much self-sacrifice for his country.
Right.
And I think he's a noble man in the end, certainly in terms of his commitment to his job. So ultimately, I think he knew from the moment he heard that he would be forced to hurt himself deeply internally and emotionally, but he wouldn't really compromise the integrity of the country.
Gotcha.
And I think in a weird way, Nina respects that, but now she's starting to think about, like, what does her life really mean and her survival, and so...
Well, guys, I'm extremely excited to see what happens next. We'll find out when The Americans returns. Thank you for talking to us.
Yeah.
For more on The Americans and New York Comic Con, keep it here at IGN.